Hello, I'm Wendy Wilson, and I'd like to welcome you to another edition of Realizing Potential. Today I have with me in the studio a great colleague who I've had the pleasure of really getting to know over the summer, and I feel like I've known him forever. Have observed him from afar in terms of his work here at Albany State. His passion for students is, you can just palpable, is I guess a great word, and the sincerity behind it. Hopefully we can have him forever, but again, we'll certainly appreciate him and delight in his contributions while he is here at Albany State University. He is none other than Dr. John Williams. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well, and thank you for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I kind of framed it like, oh, people might think, oh, is he leaving? And I know that's not the case, but I'm just really big on celebrating people while they are in the moment. As I was sharing with another guest moments ago, the impact of teaching and education, instruction, it's huge, and it's a lifetime experience, and we have to have the right people in place to make sure that experience is impacting and heartfelt, and you certainly do that. But let's learn a little bit about you.
Okay.
Where are you from, your educational experience, what brought you here to Albany State University?
Okay, so I was born and raised here in Albany, Georgia. My mom and dad actually met when my mom was in school here at ASU, living in Gibson Hall, first floor. And so I've been here for most of my life. Started out in elementary school here, and then went to Monroe High School. When I graduated, several of my friends and I were thinking about, let's go to FAMU. FAMU was the closest big HBCU, and we wanted to go to an HBCU. Yes. And we had gotten some funding to go. And then the president at the time, Madam Portia Holmes Shields, said, you know what, we want you to stay here. And so here's the package that we're going to offer you. And it was a done deal at that point. Okay. And one of the things that made it really beneficial is, at the time, I was really interested in biomedical sciences. I thought I was going to be a doctor. Those plans changed. We can talk about why later. But at the time, Albany State University had a very strong reputation for getting students prepared for professional school, for medical school, pharmacy, and so forth. And so it just made sense to stay home. I know so many people want to leave Albany when they go to school, but it made sense, it made perfect sense to stay here, go to Albany State, and get my education here. Okay. I left ASU, went to Florida State for my PhD in cell and molecular biology, and the opportunity came up for me to come back to Albany, and I jostled with it for a while. You know, do I really want to go back home? And then I thought about the fact that many of the professors that poured into me helped to make my experience at Albany State great. And so I wanted to be a part of that for the next generation and so forth. And so I've been here 9 years. Well, this is my 9th year now. Wow. Yeah.
And so you were part of that, those presidential scholars, is that?
We were actually the initial cohort.
Oh, wow.
So we were the first group to come through.
Okay, yeah. A very accomplished group. Yeah, we are, and Albany State is very proud of what you all have gone on to do. So yes, thank you for making that decision. You know, a lot of times, you hear people say, oh, they're ready to leave. They're ready to leave Albany, and they don't want to come to Albany State. That's universal. Right. When you get out of high school, you just want to leave. You want to experience the world, and so it has nothing to do. It's not an indictment on the city. That I did the same thing. I'm from Detroit, and I didn't consider any of the institutions. I did one point Eastern, but early on, if you just want to leave, you want to go out and put your stake in the ground somewhere else. But sometimes all roads lead back to your original origins. And we've certainly benefited from that. So I'm glad the president at the time made that appeal to you and you accepted.
Well, thank you. You've heard of salmon, right? The fish.
Yes.
Well, one thing that's interesting about them, and this is one thing that I try to live my life by, is that they leave, they swim wherever they need to go, but when it comes time for them to spawn, they try to go back to the original place where they were born to release their seed.
Yes.
And so for me, it's important that my hometown, even if I leave Albany in the future, it's important that I do something to give back and pour back into Albany for the next generation. My daughter, I'm hoping she'll be raised, we'll be able to keep her here and raise her in the school system here and so forth and so on. So I really believe in going back and helping where the place that gave you your start, being able to go back and pour into those communities.
Excellent.
And so that's why I love being here.
So, yeah, we've seen that come to fruition in terms of all of your endeavors here. In particular, you were tapped by President Frederick. She had observed from afar your impact within the classroom, and you designed a very impressive model in terms of student engagement and catching them early on. We both have experienced that. If you do not come, and even if you do, have experienced or been exposed to the college experience within your household and having individuals to help you guide you through that process. So those students who fall into that category who have not had that are oftentimes called first-generation students.
Right.
And so we have a lot of those that come to, students that come to Albany State, and they do not know how to navigate the process, which can be challenging, regardless the institution. You're still transitioning from that young adult into adulthood, all of those responsibilities. And so if you do not have a proper framework and it's not introduced to you early on, that can make the matriculation that much more difficult. Yeah, and so you have a great model that you have introduced, and you were just giving it freely to your students. And we said, let's replicate that. Tell us a little about the origins of that and how that then helped to frame what we just had in terms of the Success Academy and your involvement with that this summer.
Okay, so a number of the students that come into ASU, they come with ideas of what they want to do, but not necessarily a roadmap or the structure and the direction necessary to get there. A number of my students come in and they want to be medical doctors or they want to be pharmacists, and that's because that's what they know and that's what they've seen, but that's not necessarily, they don't necessarily know how to get there. And so over the years, I've been working with students and helping them develop plans, helping them develop structure in order to be successful in undergrad, but also to be engaged in undergrad so that when they leave ASU, they are ready to tackle the world in whatever areas they go, including if they decide to stay with their original plans or if they get introduced to new career fields that they didn't know existed. And so things like time management, study skills, all of the little small, soft skills that they need to know in order to be successful at the collegiate level, I'm helping students learn how to utilize those, how to manage their time, how to use the resources we have on campus in order to make sure that their time here at Albany State is well spent and is highly productive. And so with the Summer Success Academy, these are students who are coming in and wanted to get a leg up on the academic process. And so we had a 6-week essentially bridge program where they were able to take several classes, but also get introduced to community service here in Albany. Different models have shown that students who get actively involved in the community around the school that they attend are more likely to stay, and it helps with retention. And so they've shown that in a number of schools, and we wanted to implement that here. But also to get them acclimated to the resources that we have on campus, tutoring, the mental health facilities and counseling services, the health services, all of these different things that they're going to eventually need to use when they get here. And the hope is that because they've had that experience and they've been able to transition or at least get the start to the process of transitioning, they'll be able to help some of the other students who didn't get that opportunity and kind of serve as leaders amongst their peers when fall hits. And so we had some really nice outcomes too, and the students, they loved it. Some of them didn't want to come. They were kind of dragged here, and then when it was over, they kind of had to be dragged away because they loved it so much. So we had a good time with that.
That's good. That meant that something resonated with them, and it sounds like the connection was immediate. You had some really great speakers before them as well. Some of them some Albany State University alum. Absolutely.
Yeah. So we had several speakers who were from Albany State and several speakers who I happen to know who are in different industries. So Dr. Kenneth Gaucher, for example, was a presidential scholar as well in computer science. He's now over the culturally relevant computing initiative at Morehouse School of Medicine. We had Faith Kakulu, who is an industry insider in Hollywood. She flew out and came to talk to our students about writing, creativity, as well as finding your dreams and your goals and your passions. Dr. Leah Hunter, who's a professor at FAMU, she talked about the media and the representation of people of color as well as women in the media. Dr. Regina Bradley, who is also a presidential scholar from here and is the foremost authority on Southern hip hop and Outkast in particular. She came and spoke to the students about how they can utilize their voice and utilize their experience to get to their career goals. And then I had two other gentlemen, Dr. Brian Dawson and Mr. Ricky Frazier, who are educators in Atlanta, happen to be my line brothers as well.
Oh, wow.
We all pledged Alpha here at Albany State, but they came and did a professional development set of workshops on branding, social media protection, so how to make sure that your social media is representing you in the best light, and networking and internships. So the students were getting a number of different topics presented to them, and hopefully it'll get reinforced each year as they're going through their classes and other co-curricular activities here at ASU.
And what I love about that, you mentioned those topics, those are skills and lessons that they can take beyond Albany State University. They become a part of your core, particularly the networking piece, the social media piece. We can't stress that enough. That lives to, people, I deleted it. I have that conversation with young people all the time. It's deleted. I'm like, it's never deleted.
It's never deleted.
Yeah.
Never.
And I'm, the queen of screenshots myself. It helps me in the workplace, or I'll take a picture of something, let me email it to myself, so that I can trigger, or I can use that information later on in something I'm either trying to develop or report for whatever reason. But again, just because you deleted it for however many seconds, hours, days, months, years, somebody has gone in and captured that, and it has your signature attached to it. So you want it to be favorable. So getting them to think long term, and that what you do now is forever, if you will.
Right. And one of the things I shared with the students is it's small big business to capture information off the internet and save it for leverage later. A lot of these tweets and things that are showing up for politicians, comedians, celebrities, and so forth, someone's been sitting on this for a while. And when they release it, they get paid depending on the outlets that they choose to release it in order to get that information. So there are people who even if you've erased it and you haven't seen it in years, that may be holding on to it, and when you reach a point where it becomes leverage, they may have it. So you have to think that far ahead, and a lot of our students just don't.
Yeah. I have a cautionary tale. A young man, and I haven't done it in a while just because of the demands of my current role, where I was doing social media, the whole branding piece, and how that remains with you, and so again, the decisions that you make, blah, blah, blah. So there was this young man, and I'm not sure how and what point we became Facebook friends. And I don't know that he was a student here, but nonetheless, I reached out, I inboxed him because I said, I'm concerned about your future. And, he's like, well, why? And what am I giving off that makes you concerned? I said, you have you've posted a picture of yourself brandishing a weapon. And so the messaging, the connotations to that, you're an African-American male. I mean, the list is long. And I ended it by saying, and so I don't want this decision of your post to impact you in the day that you decide, I want to become CEO of XYZ. And his response still haunts me to this day. And he's like, no, I'm very intentional with this. I have, aspirations of going into the music field. And so I want to portray this image. And I said, yeah, but even those in the that is just it. It's an image, and it has to be very calculated. When you but you got to have some kind of entree or entrance into it, and this is not the way to necessarily go. And so I've often used that, and I've often wondered whatever happened to him and what is he doing, because he left it up there. But the other point, I had to make a decision. You and I can no longer be Facebook friends. That's showing up on my feed, and I think that's a message that students forget or don't quite understand. That the decisions of your peers impact you as well.
Absolutely. And the other thing that students don't pay attention to is, once again, this stuff shows up, and whether it's who you are or not, it's the image that people have of you.
That's right.
If you think about all of the losses that we've had recently of young black men and women, the first thing that they do media-wise is show the pictures that don't show you as a great student, a great mother, a great community leader. They bring up every picture that they can that shows you with that kind of image,
the negative imagery. That's
right. And it gets used to paint the picture that you deserved, even if you didn't. And so while we shouldn't have to live with that kind of fear, at the same time, it's a reality, and so sometimes we have to be careful with the images that we put out there. I hate that that's the case, but it's just a reality.
Absolutely, absolutely. Everybody knows I'm a big student of Melody Hobson, and she's the CEO and president of Ariel Investment. And in my head, she's my best friend, John. But I was looking at an interview she was doing the other day, and she was telling the interviewer that she starts those lessons with her daughter as early as 4 years old. About who society will see you as, just based upon the complexion and your gender. And you know, and although her dad is George Lucas, Caucasian man, and between the two of them have phenomenal wealth, and his mom says she's hit the birth lottery, but they are trying to instill the great values in her. But that's key, because of the complexion of you are, that the greater society will already make decisions about you, and so we need to arm you in terms of how to navigate that world.
Absolutely.
So it really is a holistic education that we're talking about. It's imperative for all of our students.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
For all of our students. So I've always struck you, and I have had countless conversations, and I've learned so much from you in a short period of time, and just very honored to now not only call you a colleague but a friend. But you come from one of the very hard disciplines, and so which is very impressive. And so then I often wonder, but you are able to navigate so many other worlds, and you don't wear that hard discipline as a badge, if you will, if that makes any sense. So who do you attribute that to? Is that to your parents about being a well-rounded individual?
Okay, so actually, now that you say that, they definitely played a major role in it. I'm not a first-generation student. Of course, my mom and my grandmom went to college. However, I am a first-generation STEM student. Nobody in my family and nobody in my immediate community had gone into the sciences, at least while I was growing up. So it was something that I was kind of navigating on my own. My mom was able to help me navigate, going to college, being able to get the most out of college. And my dad, as a police officer, was able to help me navigate enjoying Albany, the community, and so forth. And so I was able to immerse myself in different parts of this community that had nothing to do with STEM, so that when I did go into my biology classes, when I did go into my PhD and so forth, I knew that there was more to life than just that. And sometimes I think we can get so tied into what we're doing that we forget that the world around us is still happening. And so I was blessed that they allowed me to see other things. At one point I thought I was going to be a lawyer, and I was a mock trial attorney for a while. At one point I thought I was going to be an actor, and so I did some small plays long time ago. I wrestled. I did a number of things that allowed me to enjoy life as well as be in biology, and I enjoy biology just as much because I have that balance of the other things around me. And so that's helped quite a bit. I also have been very intentional in making sure my circle isn't only science. So my friends and the people that I count as sincere colleagues range from public health professionals to politicians, folks who are actors and writers, folks who are in the music industry, people who are just devoted to their job, devoted to their families, devoted to making the community a better place. And so when you have that kind of sphere of influence around you, it's really hard for you to stay in one box. And so I love what I do. I love the type of work that I do, and I love this field, but I also am aware and really enjoy what other people bring to me, and I'm able to pour into them as well.
Excellent. Thank you for making the point about the complexity of diversity. We always, as you just said, we kind of, we're known for putting things in boxes, and you have to be very intentional about your circle. You mirror their behavior, their actions, their deeds, their thoughts, and that should be reciprocal.
Right.
So that's absolute. That is going to happen. So you want to make sure that sphere is a healthy one. And so you have to give deliberate thought to that. You missed one of the great things about you too. You're a dad. You've got this showcasing this amazing little girl, and you and I are also Facebook friends, and so I take great pleasure of you sharing with the world the evolution of your daughter.
Absolutely. So she's back to give a little backstory. We lost our first child. Right around 8.5 months in, just a spontaneous abruption. And it was kind of devastating because up to that point I never really saw myself as a parent. And then when I had John the third on the way, that I was really ready to love, and we had to put that on hold. So when we got through this one, I was like, this is our rainbow baby. This is going to be my chance to be the father I always wanted to be. And she's teaching me that you be careful what you ask for, and love every minute of it while you're at it. She's super intelligent. She's really fast. She can crawl faster than all of us can walk. So we get a lot of exercise there.
I bet.
But she's really becoming aware of the world, and that's the thing that I think is fun to watch her kind of navigate learning things and learning at a faster clip than even I did when I was younger.
Yes.
So
they literally are sponges. And so the lesson that I wanted, if you don't mind me sharing with you, is that you want to continue to encourage that. And I know that you will, but we as parents, because we know as they grow older that the world will view them differently. And so we unconsciously will kind of temper that learning and that soaking it all in, and exposing them like, you can't do that because this might happen. And so just be mindful of that. I know you will do, as you and your wife are, an amazing job.
Thank you.
Just each day is something new. It's, as I shared with a previous guest earlier, it is one of the most rewarding and challenging jobs that you will ever have.
And I enjoy it.
That's good. And you have to absolutely, because it is such an amazing gift to you're developing another being. That's a huge responsibility, John.
And she wants to eat every day. Every day she wants to eat.
I know.
And we got to make it happen.
Wait till they turn into teenagers. That's just like, what do you mean? What are we having for dinner? You want to do that again? It's a lot. It is a lot, but I know you're doing an amazing job, and so thank you for sharing her with the rest of us on social media.
No problem.
It's one of the highlights when I click on, and remember those days. So what's on the horizon for you? What do you envision?
So ultimately, so this past year I've been serving as a provost fellow, and so I've had a chance to work with administration and see how essentially the other side of the game is played. And one of the things I recognize is there are a number of places where I really believe I can make an impact. So hopefully my career goal would be to move towards administration. And so now that I recognize that this is something I really want to do, everything that I'm going to do from here on, and I try to be very intentional about the things that I take on. And so everything is going to be kind of tied towards working towards that ultimate goal. Exactly where, not sure. I don't necessarily know if that's for me to call, or if I'm going to let my steps be ordered, and where I arrive is where I arrive. As far as initiatives, we have a number of partnerships that we're working on for our students. We're partnering with Morehouse School of Medicine to bring some programming here. We're doing some partnering with the Department of Labor and a couple of other areas. So I have my hands in a number of those things, and my goal is just to give my all to make sure that whatever we're doing, our students can benefit from it. So there's a lot on the horizon. There's a lot coming.
Well, the evidence is already there, and so I anticipate eagerly what the next is and what that looks like. Be careful what you wish for on that administration piece. You're already in everyone's scope. Like, that's perfect for John. So we are appreciative of the work. Before we wrap up, I'm so curious. Name 2 individuals, if you had an opportunity to invite them to dinner, that we would know on a national or international scale.
Okay. Can they have been deceased in this?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So I have a number of people that I admire. Right. The first person will be Sam Counts, or Kuntz, depending on how you pronounce it. But Dr. Counts was responsible for identifying the perfect timing for transplanting organs, in particular the kidneys, so that the rejection rate could be reduced to about 5%, whereas it was about 50% beforehand. But this was an African American doctor who went to University of Arkansas Medical School, had humble beginnings, but because he stuck with it, he revolutionized how we do surgeries. And this was, before I was born. So all these new revelations that we're having about medicine, he was on the front edge of that, especially when it comes to transplantation, matching donors, and so forth. So I really admire him. I wanted to be a nephrologist when I was a baby, a kidney doctor, and so he was always my goal. Another, and I could do this all day, but another would be Dr. Percy Julian. Dr. Julian was a biochemist, and he learned how to pull steroids from soybean and convert that plant sterol into human versions, so that we didn't have to necessarily pull those hormones from animals. We could now mass produce them in large amounts, and that would lower the price and lower the cost for those hormone replacement therapies. And so things like birth control, testosterone injections and treatments, androgen treatments, those costs went down when he developed a way to mass produce those from just a soybean. And the reason why I appreciate him, and the reason why I share this with my students, is his big discovery was to add more water. He added more water to the process, and that led to a higher yield. The reason why I share that with my students is because sometimes we can get so caught up in the complexity of what we do, we forget the basics. And something so basic as that revolutionized an industry. So there's a reason why we take these introductory classes. There's a reason why math matters. There's a reason why being a speech classes matter. There's a reason why writing matters. All of those basics that we learned at the beginning, that freshman year, you may need them again. And so I use that as a tale for my students to remember. Everything you're learning now, even if you never realize why you're going to use Pythagorean theorem, you may use it later. So always remember the basics.
I love that. I love that. That's a great way to end this conversation, but I'm like, we got to get to a part 2. We got to have you back.
I'll come back anytime.
Outstanding.
Anything for you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It's been a pleasure having you on the show. I look forward to the greater yields and outcomes. You and I were having a conversation about that the other day, and you're like, I had 1 or 2. I was like, John, they did not slip through the crack. You planted the seed, your yield, amazing. See, a little science coming forth out of me, if you can believe that. But the yield was still great, and you've got to trust that what you nourished in those 1 or 2 students that didn't do as well as the rest of the group did, that will come to fruition at a later date. You got to trust that.
I appreciate it.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you so much for today. I appreciate you.
No problem.
Viewers, thank you for joining me for this edition of Realizing Potential. I'm Wendy Wilson, and I will see you next time.